I'm Becky Walsh, how are you doing? So a number of years ago I was interviewed by a psychotherapist who was writing a thesis on past abuse, and it was really sweet. He'd say, so I'm going to ask you a difficult question, and you know, I can look away, I could take my glasses off, I could look down, you know, when you answer the question, whatever's going to make you feel comfortable. I was like, oh, dumb it down, just bring it on. And so he was asking me some really difficult questions. And at the end of the session, he said, you know, wow, you are so open and able to talk really clearly about things that have happened to you and your experiences, you know, almost just like, yeah, just freely be able to discuss it. And he said, how long have you been in psychotherapy as a client? And I said, I've not been in therapy. And he was like, you know, it was like cartoon. He said, I can't believe it. He said, you've never been in therapy? I said, no. I said, I've read lots of self-help books. I've studied psychology. I've studied psychosynthesis. I have studied all sorts of different practices, and you know, and coaching, and you know, anything that I could get my hands on about neuroscience, the way we think as human beings, the way that we tick, what makes our brain work. I've just devoured all of that, but no, I haven't been in therapy. And he was really amazed. And he said, I'm really surprised. He said, because I'm surprised that, given what you've just told me, that you haven't had to go into therapy. I think therapy has its purpose, I do. I think it has its uses. But there was just something that I was in conversation with just recently, and we were talking about how, we're talking about recovery, and when you're an addict, and you go into recovery, they ask you to go back into your history, into your past and your childhood, and figure stuff out. And I do think that there is a need to go into your past and be able to figure things out if you've got old traumas and old hurts. But it's not about what you figure out about what happened. Because here's the thing, when you're a child, everything that happens to you, you believe is your fault. You know, because if your parents are inept, if your caretakers are inept, oh my God, you're so screwed. So everything, the food's on the table, the roof over your head, because, you know, like I figured out at the age of 7, damn, I can't get a job. You know, so you have to rely on the people who are taking care of you. That's the way it is. And if you can't rely on them, you'd rather think, I can change myself. I can be a really good girl. I can be the best girl on the planet. I can manoeuvre. I can wear a clown nose. I can do an SAS manoeuvre across the floor. I can just make myself be loved. I can give of myself until I am loved, and I will do that. I will sacrifice my own needs. I will make myself loved. And of course, if you take that into your adulthood, that's when you end up with sort of relationship addiction problems, like all sorts of different stuff can kind of like come up off the back of this belief. So yes, going into your childhood, I think, has one aim, which is the aim to understand that if you were a child, it wasn't your fault. Whatever happened wasn't your fault. So when you go and do all of this self-analytical work, it's for you to love your own inner child. It's you to see yourself as a child with compassion, to understand that it wasn't your fault and that you were doing the best job that you could as a child. It's not to go more into victimhood and into self-torture and into, oh, but this is why things are so hard for me and I'm never going to fix them because of my terrible childhood. It's actually to understand that yes, this happened, but it's what you make it mean as an adult that really counts. It's when you become an adult and you go, yeah, that happened, to have compassion for myself and self-love, but wow, look at who it made me. Look at how amazing I am today. Look at what skills, talents and things and abilities I have because of these people, because of my childhood. And if you're not there yet, if you are in a place where you're like, yeah, well, my life sucks and it's all this fault, I have to tell you, when you become an adult, you become comparable. Because when you're an adult, it's what you make it mean. You're the survivor of what went on in your childhood. So it's at this point you go, right, I'm pulling back my power, I'm pulling back my control, and I'm going to be the one that decides what my childhood meant. So when the psychotherapist said, how long have you been in therapy? Well, 5 minutes. Because it took me 5 minutes, and probably a load of self-help books before that point, to decide that I make whatever has happened to me mean what I like. I am either somebody who has experienced stuff and lived through it, and it makes me an amazing human being. It makes me amazing. It doesn't make me broken, but that's a choice. There comes a point when you get to choose. There comes a point when you choose. And I was talking to this person who was saying, you know, I keep being told that I'm denying, you know, this trauma, that I'm not being realistic and not looking at it. But actually, by being in your power, by going, right, this is me, this is who I am, what has happened in the past does not make me who I am, but what I choose makes me who I am. And the archetype that I choose to be, you know, we know about the archetypes in that kind of like triangle between the persecutor, the victim, and the rescuer. So you're usually always going to find yourself in that dynamic of victim and persecutor. So, you know, to be the rescuer, it's like you're trying to do the good thing all of the time, you're trying to do the right thing. But the only way to get out of being either the persecutor of yourself or the victim of yourself is to be the rescuer of yourself. And that comes from self-love, self-compassion. In any of those dynamics is to always be the rescuer. You either rescue yourself and get yourself out of the situation with the persecutor, or you have to become the persecutor in order to fight the persecutor. Well, that's not going to work. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you're getting advice where they say, oh, you know, you really need to go for a massive swim in Lake U, I would, and it doesn't feel right to you, if you feel like it doesn't feel right, I feel like I don't need to go over all of this old ground again. What I really need to do is embrace positive psychology, look at all of the skills that gave me and how brilliant I am and what I want to do with my life because of all of that history. I support you. I just support you. You just need to do what's right for you, because other people may enjoy helping you out of a really dark place, but then they've put you in the dark place in order to help you out of the dark place. I've had people try and create relationship insurance by doing that. You won't leave me if you need me. So they kind of poke at your pain and try and get you to open up, to crack open, to be massively vulnerable so that they can rescue you. When actually you were freaking fine before they came along in the first place, and there was actually nothing wrong with you and you're getting on with your life and everything was great. So just be aware that sometimes you know best about yourself, and screw a lot of what the experts have to say. And sometimes that might mean even screwing what I have to say, but screw a lot of what the experts have to say. You are your best advisor. You do know.